Hi, this is Dr. Shawnmcpartland. I'm the campus director at Burnett International College in West Palm Beach. I'm in our skills lab today, and I'm going to be demonstrating the skill and the procedure of phlebotomy. Simply put, phlebotomy is the process by which trained medical personnel will take blood from a patient. Who uses phlebotomy? Well, a lot of different people in the healthcare team. The physicians need to know phlebotomy. Nurses need to know phlebotomy. Phlebotomy technicians need to know phlebotomy, and technicians of other sorts as well. When doing phlebotomy, the most important thing is to proceed with confidence. With that in mind, Burnett has recently purchased a phlebotomy mannequin with simulated blood in it. I don't care who you are, whether you're an accomplished physician, nurse, phlebotomist, the first time or two or three that you took blood from a real patient, you were nervous, your hands were shaking. What we're doing at Burnett is giving students the experience on a mannequin so that when they do it for their first several times on a real human being, they know the procedure and they can do it confidently and competently. The most important thing in phlebotomy is to make sure that all of your equipment is set out in advance. If you see here, we have a tourniquet. I have an intravenous catheter, which I'll show you shortly, blood tubes, a vacutainer, Band-Aid, cotton balls, a butterfly needle, a traditional needle and syringe, and here is just a needle on its own. As you note, it says 23 gauge. For needle sizes, there's a gauge and then there's a length. Needles could be 1/2 inch in length, 1 inch in length, 3/4 of an inch, 1.5 inches, so on and so forth. With the gauge, that tells you about the thickness of the needle. So the larger the gauge number, the skinnier the needle. A 25 gauge needle is much skinnier, much thinner than, let's say, an 18 gauge needle. Also, you're going to need some alcohol prep pads and certainly gloves. You don't want to conduct phlebotomy without being properly gloved, both for your benefit and the benefit of your patient. What we're going to do today is use a butterfly needle in conjunction with a vacutainer. Let me open this up and show you what it looks like. This looks like a butterfly here, and underneath this plastic sheath is the needle that gets inserted into the patient. At the other end is another needle that's covered by a sheath, and this will get screwed in and secured tightly into this vacutainer. When the blood is flowing through the needle, this blood collection tube will be pushed forward and the needle will pierce it, allowing the blood to go from the patient through the needle, through the tubing, into the blood collection tube. These are under vacuum pressure, so it will have an effect of drawing the blood into the tube. First thing I'm going to do is get my Band-Aid ready, because I'm going to be wearing gloves soon, and it's much easier to get things ready prior to putting on gloves. And the most important thing in finding a vein for your patient is not so much the veins you see, but the veins that you feel. So we feel or palpate the patient and see what their veins are like. And I find some good veins here and there. And I'll be able to tell better when I apply the tourniquet. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to put the tourniquet on the patient. If we're taking blood here, the tourniquet goes up the arm or proximally closer to the shoulder than the wrist from where your blood is going. So I'm going to put some moderate tension on the tourniquet, and when I pull it through, I leave a little tab here. The purpose of that tab is so that I can release it quickly just by pulling this end. I have an area that I like, and I'm going to prepare that area. Putting on my gloves. At this point, you should be asking your patient to make and release a fist several times, or sometimes there is a sponge ball or some other type of sponge apparatus that they'll squeeze. This allows the pressure to build up in the veins, making the veins plumper and more easy to access. We're looking for veins that are nice and plump, close to the surface, and tethered down to the underlying structures so that it doesn't roll away as you're approaching it with the needle. Now I take my alcohol pad and I go to the area where I'm going to be inserting the needle, and I move outwardly in concentric circles, literally pushing everything away from the insertion site. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to repeat it. Okay, once more, starting at the puncture site and moving in an outward fashion, never coming back inward once you've moved in an outward fashion. When you're taking blood on a real live patient, you want to make sure that the alcohol dries completely, because alcohol introduced under the skin with a needle is very, very uncomfortable for the patient, and it's not something that you would like to do. Now I'm going to take the sheath off the needle, and if you look here, there is a bevel, meaning an opening on the needle. You want the beveled edge upward or towards the ceiling, not downward. So I hold the needle like this, and we're ready to insert the needle into the patient. We're looking for a little bit of blood flash and a little bit of pop when we pierce the skin. Now if you look here, you see the red in the butterfly. I'm going to attach the vacuum tube here now, and all should be well. And here we have it. When you have enough blood, you simply remove it, and you release the tourniquet, firmly press the gauze pad over the needle site, remove the needle, you put it in a very safe place, or preferably a sharps container right away. Ask the patient to hold that down himself or herself, and you apply a Band-Aid over the site. Now we're done with the phlebotomy. If you, well, this patient doesn't like the Band-Aid so much, but you get the idea. With the first tube, there was not sufficient vacuum in the tube, so instead of removing the needle and poking the patient again, I just switched to a different tube, and look what we got. In addition to phlebotomy, we can also use this arm at Burnett International College for running intravenous fluids. We can also use this for inserting intravenous catheters or angio catheters. I'll take one out here. There is a needle that goes inside the silicone sheath. You insert the needle in, and then you advance the silicone sheath and withdraw the needle, and you can hook up your intravenous solution to it. One thing I want to impress upon you before we end: never, ever, ever recap a needle. Take them directly to the sharps container, as we will when this video is over, and make sure that you always keep the patient's safety and your safety as your #1 goal. Good luck, and we hope to see you at Burnett International College.